and with the language you chose. I've worked with people who completely changed the course of their lives, not because they learned new knowledge, but because they started speaking differently. They replaced weary, self-deprecating, blame-filled phrases with words that were intentional, energized, and committed. They shifted from "I don't know how" to "I'm finding a solution," from "I don't have enough time" to "I choose to prioritize what matters," from "I'm not good at that" to "I'm learning to get better every day." And what happened wasn't just a psychological shift, it was a transformation in habits, behavior, relationships, and opportunities, because once the steering wheel turns, the whole ship changes course. Successful people don't speak randomly. They are as careful with their words as a sculptor with their chisel, not because they're afraid of being wrong, but because they understand. Every word is a seed planted in the subconscious, and that seed, if repeated long enough, becomes a tree. If powerful enough, it becomes a forest. If left unchecked, it grows wild. And you are the gardener responsible for tending that space every day with the language you use to build yourself. When you speak a sentence charged with conviction, the subconscious responds with aligned action. When you speak a sentence tinged with doubt, the subconscious responds with hesitation, procrastination, or self-sabotage. The subconscious loves repetition. That's why reading affirmations aloud every morning and night isn't some vague spiritual ritual. It's strategy. It's programming. When you read a phrase repeatedly with power, like "I am a creator of irreplaceable value, I act with clarity and discipline, each day I move closer to my chosen goal," over time, those words are no longer affirmations. They become identity. And from that identity, every reaction, choice, and behavior throughout your day begins to revolve around a single axis. Look at those who live with steady purpose. You'll see their language is equally steady. They don't say maybe, let's see, or I hope. They say, I decide, I act, I'm doing what's needed. They speak as if what they want is already written into the ledger of destiny. They don't allow language to betray vision, and so their subconscious doesn't hesitate. It receives clear commands, it rewires behavior, it attracts aligned conditions, it rejects anything off frequency. And because of that, they no longer need to force themselves, because their internal operating system has become the guide. On the other hand, people who complain, blame, or speak negatively about themselves don't need anyone to stop them. They've already stopped themselves. Not through action, but through the words they repeat daily. They don't realize that what they say when they're impatient, angry, or discouraged is becoming the material from which the subconscious builds a smaller, distorted version of them, and then they live as though they're incapable. Not because it's true, but because that's the signal they've been feeding their internal engine. Starting today, you can begin observing your language like an architect reviews a blueprint. Every word you use is a line that defines the structure of your mind. Are you building a strong, grounded tower or a fragile shack that sways with every gust? Pay attention to how you speak about yourself, how you speak about your goals, how you speak about the future. And when you notice old, negative, repetitive patterns, don't ignore them. That's a warning sign. Interrupt it. Replace it. Replace it with something intentional, directional, and weighted with purpose. You don't have to force yourself to change the world. Just change "I can't" to "I'm learning." Change "I don't know" to "I'll find out." Change "I'm afraid to fail" to "I'm growing through each action." Say the things you want to become true. Say them enough that your brain accepts them as inevitable. Because what you repeat becomes a system. That system produces reflexes. Those reflexes become behavior. Behavior creates results. And those results reinforce belief, and that cycle continues upward or downward, depending on which steering wheel you choose each day. The subconscious is the engine, but language is the wheel. If you let others control the words you use, you've handed your entire system to outsiders. But if you take command of every word you speak, you're navigating your life's vessel with sovereignty, and that is power no one can take from you. Only you can lose it if you forget that every word you speak, no matter how small, is shaping your future one day at a time. Success is not a reward for the most logical thinker. It is the result of the one with the deepest resolve. Logic can take you to the edge, but it is resolve that breaks through it. Logic says that might not happen. Resolve says, I will make it happen at all costs. Logic is based on current data, statistics, probabilities. Resolve comes from a deeper source, beyond where reason can reach. It is the unshakable belief that if I keep going, I still have the power to change the game. And in every great journey I've ever witnessed, it is resolve, not reasoning, that separates the one who finishes from the one who quits halfway. You can analyze a plan, calculate risks, build strategies, and all of that is necessary, but if you don't possess an inner force that compels you to complete it, every equation will collapse the moment you hit your first obstacle. There's nothing wrong with logic. It's a tool, but it is not fuel. The real fuel to keep going, even when nothing makes sense anymore, is resolve. And you don't need a logical reason to have resolve. Resolve. You just need to make one decision. I will do this until it's done. No other options, no way out. I have seen people so intelligent that they suffocated their own chances with reasoning. They overthought, overanalyzed, overfeared. Every step had to be backed by data and guaranteed success. They asked, what if I fail? What if I lose money? What if others don't support me? And while they were still waiting for a logical basis to act, someone else, less smart, less prepared, had already started, failed, learned, and risen again, because that person had what logic cannot provide: an unconditional, non-negotiable, unrelenting resolve. Remember this: resolve is not dependent on circumstances, it is a choice. You don't need anyone to inspire you to have resolve. You just need to look at what you want and ask yourself one question: am I truly committed to this until the end? If the answer is yes, you will find the way. If the answer is no, no amount of logic will keep you from quitting. So don't use your intellect to justify retreat. Use it to serve your resolve. Logic should be the servant of belief, not the chairman of the board. Resolve doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It only needs you to stand up every time you fall, to keep going every time you're tired, and to keep your promise to yourself even when no one expects anything from you anymore. And the incredible thing is, you cannot fake resolve. Life will always send you tests, confusion, betrayal, delay, failure, isolation. Each time you face them and still choose to move forward, not because of reason, but because of a decision, you forge a strength beyond anything logic can explain. I once spoke with a man who had nothing. No degree, no connections, no capital, but he had one thing: an unbreakable will. He didn't speak like someone seeking pity. He spoke like someone who knew his future wasn't a possibility, it was a decision. He repeated one simple sentence: I will not stop until it becomes real. Nothing profound, no philosophy, but every day he woke up earlier, worked harder, studied deeper, and adjusted constantly, not because anyone forced him, but because resolve had become his identity. You cannot wait for everything to make sense before you commit. It is your commitment that will make everything start to make sense. The door won't open if you just stare at it and analyze the hinges. It opens when you step forward and turn the handle with certainty. Success does not belong to the most informed. It belongs to the one who acts the most and remains